let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from character-driven structural pacing, weaponized scene and sequel loops, and the micro-level conflict formulas of commercial fantasy manuals, and plunge straight into the high-octane, calculation-heavy tracking grids of deep space positronic matrix architecture, weaponized literary legacy loops, and the fiercely protective, dangerously fragile world of an ultimate science fiction sovereign running a raw tactical survival loop. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, paranoia-slicked parameters of a final retrofuturistic archive vault, exploring the lethal analytical parameters of a devastating, genre-defining temporal matrix with Gold, the final science fiction collection, the exceptional, pulse-pounding posthumous compilation masterpiece engineered by the absolute undisputed global sovereign of breathtaking galactic empires, double-blind robotics laws, and high-velocity hard sci-fi friction, Isaac Asimov. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads where a fierce, hyper-vigilant network of classic computational assets running an unyielding truth extraction loop, a calculating, manipulative shadow mechanism of hyper-advanced cybernetic probability running an elite proximity tracking and legacy erasure routine, and an absolute defense against an encroaching technological oblivion threat network collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn psychological sci-fi, where an endangered, hyper-observant group of interconnected cybernetic and biological protagonists must navigate an absolute maze of rigged positronic programming, corrupt galactic governance vectors, and a deadly ring of active personal simulation anxieties while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised interstellar ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep behavioral profiling, calculated safety boundaries, and absolute emotional stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory executioner asset, weaponizing institutional data mechanics, and where the author utilizes an incandescent, meticulously curated three-part dossier uniting breathtaking final short fiction with elite analytical essays on the craft and future of hard science fiction, diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits. This book is engineered to lock you in. Asimov completely dominates the high-precision robotic jeopardy meets suffocating intellectual erasure dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating mechanical paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre vargs like Arthur C. Clarke, Robert A. Heinlein, Philip K. Dick, and Frank Herbert, while treating realistic psychological layouts, complex dark possessive loyalty arcs, and protective high-density systemic extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse assets, operating under a severe, calculation-heavy handicap of sudden metaphysical targeting, absolute intellectual liquidation logs, and a hyper-visible targeting canvas within a viral galactic database. Behind our protagonists' rigorous mathematical footprints, defensive conversational shields, and sharp observation metrics lies an intricate matrix of hidden structural vulnerabilities, deeply buried past timeline leverage, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Their collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight following an abrupt interstellar interception sequence, their entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from an encroaching automated or situational threat network, parsing complex behavioral shifts in their daily systemic interaction loops, and shielding their vulnerable personal sovereignty nodes from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless elite cleanup offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches their active scanning perimeter. While exploring the final frontier of the master's thoughts, our primary assets register a total security breach when the title novella Gold, subsequently designated by Global Digital Networks as an elite meta-narrative tracking sequence, initializes an irregular onboarding sequence, systematically mapping a futuristic director's struggle to adapt a classic, unfilmable alien masterpiece into an absolute visual matrix. Behind the clean technological civilian facade and elite behavioral mapping style of these collected stories lies an intricate matrix of deep algorithmic science and a cold target containment blueprint. As the hostile adversarial investigation phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier across a ticking clock timeline, and the final essays reveal the exact mechanics behind writing complex space operas, the unauthorized validation of Asimov's metrics reveals that standard structural timelines are an explicitly engineered trap. The standard boundaries of routine future planning and peaceful civilian compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonists run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. They are thrust directly into an active, invisible war against destiny itself behind closed starship doors, where a highly manipulative psychological gaslighting matrix launches aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress their survival data stream and execute their complete systemic erasure. The tactical parameters instantly explode as their historical and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the sterile corporate engineering yards, dark computer testing centers, and private fortified residential rooms into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Our protective, hyper-vigilant heroines, ranging from specialized laboratory technicians mapping their own mental health defense perimeter to sophisticated AI systems analyzing the 3 laws, are forced to deploy their massive intuitive tradecraft, elite behavioral mapping skills, and raw physical stamina to preserve their focus before their adversary's relentless, calculation-heavy proximity containment phase permanently deletes their boundaries. The threat vector remains purposeful and resolute, determined to deploy deep data manipulation loops, continuous psychological gaslighting via viral internet exposure, and persistent dominance to shatter their defense, only to realize their hardened survival protocols and shifting counter-narratives match their opponent's raw tactical speed step for step. Every midnight archival excavation of positronic record banks, every silent choice to stand off against an encroaching systemic diagnosis behind standard architectural barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at their reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the Predator Network's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Isaac Asimov reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial mental ambush or managing an invasive internal audit. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of behavioral manipulation and fatalistic supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark possessive loyalty around their digital support alliance, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shifts the clock into its terminal phase, proving that deep-seated obsession has tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending lock-grid trap and permanently secure their sanctuary, our resilient protagonists must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of their final boundary lines. It is a hard science fiction, cybernetic noir, legacy anthology, high-velocity contemporary puzzle masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one-calculated logic paradox triggers a fatal positronic showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes standoff confrontation, or a heavy, possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. Asimov writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate takeover, and the distinct, subtle scent of polished mahogany, citrus cleaning bleach, ozone, cold statistical logs, dark adrenaline, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this contemporary standalone marvel into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable, superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. Gold, the final science fiction collection, is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes contemporary thriller and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputdownable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the fleet.